Welcome to the Scottish Food Show. I'm Wendy Barrie, and today we're going to do a little enriched bread dough to celebrate the up-and-coming Valentine's Day, because this one is being filmed at the very end of January. So we're going to start off with taking 150 ml of milk and warming them up in a pan. So just get that on to warm. Now, some of you may use yeast all the time, others of you may panic at the thought of using yeast, but there are various ways you can make lovely bread doughs, whether it's just something for your morning toast or whether it's something like a special kind of bun, which is this one today. And you can either use fresh yeast, which is quite difficult to get in Scotland. They also call it brewer's yeast, a fresh yeast, and on the website I'll put up what to do if that's what you have. But most of us will just buy the quick action dried yeast, which some purists may frown on a little bit, but it's very handy and very easy to use. And of course, if you are a sourdough bread maker, you will have your sourdough starter in the house, and you can use that, which is terrific. But as I'm coming and going all over the country, inspecting for Scottish Food Guide, writing articles, travelling, then it's not so easy for me to have a sourdough starter on the go in the house all the time. It's a bit like having a pet at home. So I just find it much easier to use these, and they work really well. So you don't need to give them a feed to start with. You can add them straight to your mixture. And we're putting the wet mixture, the wet ingredients in one bowl and the dry ingredients in another, and we're going to get started. So for this recipe, we're using 2 sachets. The sachets, whichever make you happen to get, these are Allison's, but some of the bigger operations do their own makes. And if you are interested in starting a sourdough starter, Andrew Whitley from Bread Matters markets one through Scotland the Bread and also through Lakeland. So you can buy it online and it'll get posted to you. And it's dehydrated, gets you started. So that's another super way of doing it. So in here I've got 50 grams of flour, and I've got a little pinch of sugar just to help the yeast a little bit, and I'm going to add the warmed milk as well. So in it goes. One thing that the yeast doesn't like is too much salt or too much sugar. So don't put any kind of yeast straight on top of a whole teaspoon of salt. It won't like it. So just keep them mixed up so that they're not actually in direct contact. Now, let's just see how warm this is. That's coming along nicely. I'm going to leave it at that. So you just want, if you have your milk too hot or any liquid too hot, then your yeast will die. So you're wanting to give it a lovely atmosphere for growing, but not killing it off. So if you put in your little pinky as if you were testing the bath water for the baby, it should be just a nice, pleasant, just warm above blood heat, a pleasant warm, but nothing like what you drink tea at, just a very gentle, tepid temperature, which is what this is at, which is perfect. So I'm going to add this milk to my mix and give it a little whisk around, or with a wooden spoon, and it's just going to make a sloppy sort of wallpaper paste. And we're going to pop this in the sunshine or in a warm place and just let it froth a little bit. This doesn't take very long at all because the milk's already warmed up. If everything is freezing cold, like it is outside today, then it will take hours. And indeed, a lot of sourdough bread makers will leave their dough to prove overnight in a fridge or a cool place. So you can take hours over these things, and that's fine. But if you're actually wanting to eat it for your tea, and you want to speed it up a little bit, then fast-acting yeast and some nice warm milk to get it started. So we have here a lovely batter, really. It's like a batter. And we're just going to let that sit for maybe about 10-15 minutes, and it'll go frothier. So I'm going to put it over here because it's warm by the cooker, and we'll come back in a few moments to do that. But what else have we got here for this lovely bread dough that we're making? Well, we've got our dry ingredients here, and we're using a strong bread flour. So whenever you're using a yeasted product, a bread kind of recipe, you're wanting a flour with more gluten than your normal cake flour. So look out for the one that says strong flour on the packet. And you can get white ones, wholemeal ones. You can also get the full grain, the lovely Scotland bread is a bread flour as well. So look out for those. They're available in lots of shops across Scotland. And what I've done today is I've made it about 50-50 white and Scotland bread flour, because when I'm doing a sweet bun, it's quite nice to have it, personally, a little bit whiter and a little bit more just a little bit more dressed up. But you can make it full wholemeal and it's absolutely delicious. But it is a little bit heavier because it has the whole grain, much healthier, and it will take longer to rise. So again, it's a little bit of a shortcut if you make it with 50-50 white as well. And there's some decent strong white flours about, Scottish ones as well, that you can look out for. So we've got that in here, and we're going to take 25 grams of butter, no palm oil in this bread, and we're going to rub it into the mixture along with a little bit of salt and a little bit of sugar. The recipe is on the website. Half a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of sugar. So we're just going to rub that in so it's like breadcrumbs. All these little bits and pieces is enriching the dough to make a lovely kind of fruit bun. So we're just giving that a little bit of butter. It adds a little bit of flavour. It helps keep it lovely and moist. And that's getting added into there. And that's ready for our mix. Now, what else goes in here? Well, when that mixture is lovely and frothy, we're going to also add an egg to it. Again, this is an enriched dough. When you're making bread, you would have salt, flour, water, and yeast or starter dough, and that's all you need. But then you can always add some fruit or some nuts or some seeds. So this, when you start adding eggs and things, that's an enriched dough. So I'm going to take one of these, and you'll notice I've popped it in a bowl first. When you've got lots of good ingredients, it would be awful if you just happened that one moment to have a bad egg. So it's always good just to check that the egg is fine, and if you have got any shell in there, you can get it out at that point as well. So the egg is ready to add to the mix when the time comes. There we are. Now I'm also going to add some beautiful vine fruit. Now you get what you pay for with these. This is a lovely organic vine fruit with big sultanas, big grapes, little dried cherries in it. They're really lovely, and it's worth having a look for something like that. If you go for the very low-cost currants that look like tiny little black specks, they'll stay chewy and they won't be as moist. So it's rather nice to go extra mile. And if you love mixed peel, stir a little bit of that through it. If you love cherries, pop a few of those in. So it's entirely up to what you would like your dried fruit to have in it. So you might have some preferences on that. I'm not adding cherries at the moment because we're going to add them for decoration at the end, because it is Valentine's, so we're going a bit pink here today. Definitely a bit on the pink side. But we'll come back to you in a few moments when that yeast is bubbling. Now that was literally about 5 minutes, because we've got a lot of sunshine in this kitchen, as you can see, and even winter sunshine can be quite warm. And look at how frothy that is already. It is seriously frothy. If I take a spoon, you will see that it is solid. You see, solid and foamy and bubbly and gorgeous, which is exactly what we want. So it didn't take very long at all. And we're going to add in the egg, add that in, and add it all to the bowl here. So I'll just put the egg in with this, get all the egg in, like so. That's the egg in there. I'll keep that spatula for later, and we'll add it to the flour mix. In it goes, all at once. This spatula again, it makes it easier. And it's got a lovely sort of beery smell from the yeast. There's no doubt about it. The real ale aficionados will recognise this scent, definitely. Now to start with, I brought this palette knife just to get it started, but soon I'm going to be using my hands. So just combine it to start with, and then get right in there. So, the good thing about a knife rather than a spoon is you can clean it off so easily, and then you can get right in there, which is what we're going to do now. So I've got it on a J-cloth just to makes it easier for me, and I'm going to get my hand in, use it like a paddle, and really bring it together. So at the moment we've got a nice clumpy dough, but we've still got flour around the side, and the cuckoo agrees with me. So we're going to move it together using my fingers like a paddle, and just get all that excess from the side of the bowl. And if you've measured accurately, it will be absolutely perfect. Having said that, though, occasionally you do get flour that absorbs a little bit more liquid than you thought, in which case just add a tiny little bit. But I've been finding recently that the flours have been pretty standard and reliable, and that seems to be less the case at the moment. But it is something sometimes you have to watch out for. If you change the make of the flour you're using, sometimes you have to alter the liquid in the recipe a little bit. And certainly in the case of pure wholemeal, you'll probably use a little bit more liquid than if you do it 50-50 like I have today. So this is coming together beautifully, as you can see. And I'm just going to get these last bits off the side of the bowl. There we are. Clean bowl, got the dough. So now what you want to do is knead it. So you need some flour and nice tabletop, and work it so that you really get this. Give it a good knead for about 5 minutes. And that's quite important because you're developing the gluten, which allows it to stretch, and you get a lovely dough, which is exactly what you're wanting. So just keep working it. The professional bakers are very good at doing two, one in each hand. I am not. But I do enjoy baking, but I've never mastered the ambidextrous technique. So just keep working it like that for a good 5 minutes. If you've got the radio program on, you can listen to something, but it is worth giving it a really good knead. And you can do that whilst thinking about something that you get worked up about, and then you get a really good knead, because you do want to make it, put in quite a bit of effort. This is not a sort of light-handed, gentle technique. This is quite robust. You really want to fold it in on itself, and I'm using the heel of my hand to really work it. And you feel the dough changing texture. You feel it becoming more stretchy and more pliable. And that's what you're looking for, because when it first comes out of the bowl, it's a little bit more like a scone, and you're really wanting to make it feel like that bread dough. So you just keep at this for a little bit. Back in a few minutes. So it's had a little bit longer kneading, and I'm very happy that it's now a nice velvety soft dough that's come together beautifully, and it's also a nice shape ready to start rolling. And you also wanted to mention that you'll see here that there is not a whole load of flour. I only used the flour once to get it started. After that, it didn't stick to the surface at all. It didn't stick to me. I just kept working it. Otherwise, you're effectively changing the ingredients if you keep adding flour. So you only want the minimum, and I didn't need to add any more again to the surface. Now I'm going to roll it out, and I'm going to roll it out on the paper that it's going to bake on. The theory being that I maybe don't have to move it quite so often. So again, a little dusting of flour on this, and I'm going to shape it into a long oblong and see how we get on with that, right? So a little bit of flour, just so it can move around on that, a little bit on the top, and we're going to start rolling. Now it's going to be springy, remember? Don't want to knock that off the table with my elbow. So we're looking for a nice oblong here. So to start with, a bit like a Swiss roll. What you're doing is like a Swiss roll. So we're just going to start. It's lovely and springy, and it springs back a little bit. It's a little bit elastic, but that's good. That's what you want, because it's a beautiful texture. You can see it's a lovely smooth dough. Now remember, this one has got a little bit of sugar in it. It's got egg in it. So whilst I'm not saying it wouldn't make an interesting pizza, that is not the purpose of it. Even at the moment, it looks like a pizza, because it's an enriched dough, this one. And it's 50-50 Scotland bread and a strong white flour. So I'm going to keep rolling into a rectangle. And I'm also going to try and attempt to have slightly square corners, because I'm not trying to get an oval, I am trying to get an oblong. But you know what it's like when you're rolling dough. And I'm certainly not going to trim any off, because that would be just a waste of money. So I'm just going to ease them a little bit more in the corners, and then go back to rolling into a length again. And this is coming on very nicely. This is what I want. And the longer the better at this point. Don't worry about it fitting in your tin, because it's not going to be this length when it goes onto your tin. So just keep rolling. Keep on rolling. There we are. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Now, when you want dough to stick to itself, you need to give it a little bit of a wash, and water will do on this occasion. So that end's just a little bit thick, so we'll just take it round and roll it out a little bit so that it's not a really thick bit there. It also gives us a little bit of more length in the process, so we'll do that. There we are. So now we're going to take a little bit of water right round the edge, just to help the sticking process when the time comes. Like so. Now this is a favourite in this house, and we're going to decorate it. But if you want to make it in advance, before you decorate it, you can freeze it and then decorate it when you're ready, when it's defrosted. Right, so it's a little bit of water around the edges. And you can either grate butter over it, but grating butter, you know, a lot of recipes say grate butter, but unless it's straight from the freezer, it tends to get messy pretty quickly. So we're trying to just have some nice butteriness, some ooziness in amongst the fruit. So I've got 50 grams of butter here, and I'm just going to put knobs all over just using my fingers, because it ends up like this anyway. And 2 minutes after it's been in the oven, it's all melted. So it's not like you're trying to create puff pastry layers here. All you're doing is adding some unctuousness and loveliness, richness to the recipe, but you're not creating pastry layers in this one, because it's going to come out like a bread dough. So we're just going to evenly distribute the 50 grams of butter all over it, like so. So you don't have any dry bits. Nobody gets the dodgy bit. There is no dodgy bit. There we are. Like so. And then the next thing we do is we take the lovely dried fruit you have here. I'm going to give my hands a wash because I'm very buttery. There we are. And we're going to add a couple of tablespoons of brown sugar. Now, it's good if you have brown sugar in the house, because it gives it a lovely caramelly taste, which is all to the good. So a lovely dark sugar is good for this. We're going to add that, and we're also going to add a couple of teaspoons of cinnamon. Now, cinnamon is a spice from bark, and it's got a wonderful smell, and it's actually reputed to have a very calming influence. So that's good for romance, isn't it? Just all chilled, very chilled. Maybe that's why the Swedes have cinnamon buns almost every day in life. So you can add 1 or 2 teaspoons. I like it quite cinnamony, so I'm going to add 2. There we are. And this is a dry mix, so you can actually just dispense with the spoon and just distribute it with your fingers so that it's well mixed through. The cinnamon, the brown sugar, and the dried fruit. And then you add that to your bread. And again, make sure it's evenly distributed. Like so. And then we can see if we need to give it a little helping hand anywhere, just to make sure that everybody gets some fruit and some sugar and some spice, like so. Like that. Now, what you can do now is you can let the paper help you to roll it up, because you're going to roll it like a Swiss roll. So start with one edge. The baking parchment is really quite helpful. One edge and roll it up like so. There we are. Like that. Now we have a lovely roll. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to take that roll and we're going to get a tin at this point so that we don't have to move it too often. And we're going to take the roll and we're going to take let's get it away from the edge a little bit here. And we're going to get it onto the tin, like so. There we are. And then what we're going to do is we're going to shape it into, she says, I'm going to do it this way actually, because I'm going to shape it into a heart. So right round and up it comes. Now this end here, you need a little bit more water on it so that one fits into the other and it stays. And then you want to really press it down and create this lovely heart shape, because that is what we're going to bake in the oven. It's a beautiful heart shape, which will accentuate with the icing that we use as well. There we are. Now, there we have our beautiful heart-shaped sweet dough. And what we do now is we make some marks in it diagonally with some scissors. And this helps it cook, it helps the steam to escape, it helps the dough to cook, and it also gives you a lovely design, as you will see. So we've got our heart shape, we've got our crisscrosses. This is going to now prove so that that yeast develops again for about 20 minutes, and then we're going to bake it. So here it is at the moment. There we are. And we'll come back and see what it's like when it's risen. Once again, in this lovely winter sunshine, it proved pretty quickly. And here we have got our lovely heart ready to go in the oven. It has really certainly increased a good 30-40% in size. It's nice and puffed up, and you can see that the slashes, like some sort of medieval jouster's sleeves, have opened up, and you can see the fruits, and it will help the cooking, and it will look very beautiful when it's finished. So that's going to go in the oven at 190 for 20 to 30 minutes. I'm going to keep an eye on it. We want it to have a nice golden crust, and it should tap, it should be firm on the bottom, so we know it's not doughy in the middle. And we'll take a look at that when that comes out. Now, what we're going to do then is we're going to ice it, and that's where the pink comes in. So I've got some lovely glassy cherries that I'm going to put on it, and I've got some glassy icing that I've started to mix. Now, the glassy icing here, as you can see, is pink. Now, you can go with white, but I thought, you know, it's Valentine's, let's go a bit pink here. And I'm not one for all kinds of additives. I like to keep my food as pure as possible. And so I thought, well, what could I use that would give me a lovely pink icing with a lovely flavour to it, not just sugar, and it's not artificial. And in comes Brenda with these wonderful Just Fruit. So this is a blackcurrant powder, and you get this gorgeous colour and a lovely hint of blackcurrant through it, which goes beautifully with the fruits we've already got. So this is a winning combo, and I'm delighted with this. So I'm going to drizzle this on the top and decorate it with cherries. Lastly, you will see when it's finished, I'm going to add some rosemary. Now, we grow rosemary like a weed in our garden. It seems to love the seaside. And it is edible. You wouldn't normally eat all this, I can assure you. It's something that we usually add in small amounts to savoury dishes, and it's absolutely delicious. Sometimes focaccia, for example, sometimes grinding it up. But these little branches of rosemary, decorating it, will look very beautiful. And the aroma is gorgeous. And although, as I say, I wouldn't recommend eating it with this, it is edible. It's an edible herb, rosemary. It's from the Mediterranean, but it seems to love Fife. And it's a symbol of everlasting love. So I think it's very appropriate for our Valentine bun. So this is going to go into the oven now, and we'll see it when it's ready. And here's our finished decorated ring, our little heart, complete with rosemary. And I finished it off with glassy icing, about 100 grams of icing sugar to a teaspoon of the beautiful dried blackcurrant, and glassy cherries, which help depict the heart shape. It is a really delicious fruit bun, and I will cut a slice as well and show you a still image of it on the website. The recipe will be on the website, scottishfoodguide.scot. And if you like my recipe and you're looking for more, do think about our book, Meadows, The Swedish Farmer and the Scottish Cook. Perfect for yourself or a treat for somebody else. Available online from the shop on the food guide as well, on the homepage. So, whatever you're doing this month, do try and shop local. Support our local producers. Treat yourself to a meal out. Support our local chefs. Whatever you do, look out for Scottish Food Guide and have a wonderful, happy Valentine's Day.